So welcome to our Thursday evening online chess lesson. I'm all on my lonesome here in our cold chess shop in Ormond, but I have David sitting at home monitoring what we're up to. So if you have any problems, you can send a chat message to David. And I also have with me today Heath Gooch up in sunny Mildura. How are you, Heath?
Good, thank you.
What's it like up there? Been a nice day?
Oh yeah, it's kind of hot, but very nice.
Yep, probably a bit better than us. All right, well, I've looked at all your games on Tornello. I think you've got 9 or 10 games there. And I've chosen a couple of positions from some of them, and one game in particular we're going to have a look at in a minute. It's quite obvious that in your games you often make a mistake or a tactical oversight. Maybe they're a little bit older before you started these lessons, and I think you're improving quite a bit from what I've seen in the game I'm going to show you today. But I think we will need to focus on how we think and choose our moves, such that we make certain we don't make any mistakes. So yeah. Let's have a look at, actually we must find out a bit about you first, mustn't we? So I've got your profile there. So you go to Trinity Lutheran College, is that right?
Yep.
Is that primary or secondary? How old are you?
That's both. So
okay.
I'm in year 5.
You're in year 5, okay. And you've got your chess rating up to around about 1,000, I see.
Yep.
So you're Zoe Harrison's favourite opponent. She's beaten you 10 times.
Yeah, it's very, very sad.
Yeah, no, well, she's a pretty good player, so there's no shame in that, but I'm sure you'll beat her soon. And also, if everyone looks at the list of tournaments there, that's only a small sample. You play heaps. You play in the Mildura tournament up there and the RJ Shields up there, and you come down here for national finals and other stuff. So you're a very active player, which is really good. Okay. Do you remember this position from your game?
No, I've looked at it and I don't know which game it's from.
Okay. All right. Well, what I want to do is Black's just played knight b4. So you're white, it's your turn to move. So what should we say to ourselves as soon as he's made his move?
What is he threatening?
What is he threatening? All right, so you tell me what he's threatening with that knight on b4.
He's threatening the knight on d5 and the pawn on c2.
Yeah, the c2 pawn's covered though, but that knight on d5, he's attacking that 3 times, you've got it covered twice. So he's threatening to take that and win a pawn. So that's the problem. All right, so all you guys out there have had a bit of a look at your suggested moves for white. I must say not many of you have come up with the right move. So I'll have a little poll. I'll give you 4 moves to choose from. So we know he's threatening our pawn, so we've got to do something about that. So we can do c4 to protect the knight. We could do knight takes f6 check to get the knight away from being captured. We could swap the knight on b4, or we could play bishop b3. So they're the 4 alternatives I'll give you. So once again, c4, knight takes knight check, knight takes knight on b4, or bishop b3. So if you've made up your mind, I'll launch the poll. So if everyone starts voting, we'll see how we go. At the moment, bishop b3's hit the lead. Oh no, c4's catching up. c4's hit the lead. Knight f6 can equal second. It's going to be a pretty close poll. Okay, I'll give you 1 more second, then we'll close the poll now. All right, let's have a look at the results. What have we got there? It's pretty well spread. c4 just in front of bishop b3. Knight f6 check. Second last, and knight takes b4 last. Well, what did you choose, Heath?
I chose bishop b3.
Okay, tell me why you chose bishop b3.
Well, it's kind of getting on a long diagonal. If you could clear out the pieces, you've got a real square.
So it's putting the bishop on the better square, and it's defending the pawn, yeah?
Yeah, the knight.
All right. c4, did that appeal or not?
I had a look at c4, but, you know, they rook
all right. What?
c8 or something like that, getting the tax study on it. I don't.
Okay, all right. What about knight takes knight check? Is that any good?
Well, you're getting rid of your bishop placed in the sent
Good
off.
knight.
Yeah, not doing much.
All right. So you rejected it on positional grounds. You're giving up your good knight for a bad knight.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you think he would reply after knight takes knight?
I thought he would probably take us back with the bishop. Wait, hang on, which knight are we talking about?
The one on f6.
Yeah.
You thought he'd take back with the bishop. Okay. Is there a problem with that? What would you reply if the bishop goes back to f6? So let's have a look. So we'll go knight takes knight. Bishop. Oh, hang on. He's taken with the queen. If he takes with the bishop, what happens to the h pawn? Can't you win a free h pawn?
Oh, yeah.
So he has to take with the queen.
Yeah.
All right. So is that looking good or not good or what?
Looking good for white wins a free pawn and D.
I know Max liked this and Sam. So they're pretty good players. So what would you play
now? Queen takes D6, I think.
All right, and win a pawn.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So first thing, let's just go back. So one of the ways we determine our moves is we look at all checks and captures. So even if we think bishop b3 is a good move, we still look at knight takes knight check because that's both a check and a capture. All right, so that means we have to analyse it. So he takes it. We worked out he's got to take with a queen. And now we see a good move, queen takes pawn winning a pawn. Now, do we have a saying about when we see a good move what we should do?
Stop him because there's usually a better one.
There could be a better one. So let's just have a quick stop. Can we do something even better than queen takes pawn? Are there any other moves there that spring to mind or appeal? Not really?
Not really.
All right. Well, one of the other things I like to do is I'm very big about putting my pieces on good squares, but the other side of that is you chase his pieces away from good squares. So sure, I can take that pawn, but before I do that, why don't I just play c3? So that chases his knight away, and it's got to go to a rotten square on the side of the board. Then I take the pawn, so I'm still a pawn up, and I'm attacking his knight, which is now in a worse position. So this would be better, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So first thing to remember. So when you see a good move, look for a better one. Right. So that was just a small little point. So all of those out there who played knight takes f6, well done. And if you saw the follow-up c3 instead of immediately grabbing the pawn, even better. All right, now let's have a look at another position. What have we got here? I think we're going for the Brooker game. All right, now just a couple of points in this game against Kyle Brooker. Do you remember that one at all? Australian junior or? Yeah, all right. Well, you're white anyway. It starts off like this. This is all very boring, putting out knights and bishops and stuff. And then you played knight g5. Okay, now who can we have a chat to? I see if Gary's here. Gary, can you hear me? Gary, I've just unmuted you. Say something. Nope, Gary's not talking to me. All right, who else can we try? All right, we'll try Haran. Haran, can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. You seen that knight g5 move?
Yeah.
That Heath has just played. Now, is that a good move or a bad move, do you think?
It's not a right move because then you can move d5 for black.
So black could play d5. Couldn't white just take it, though, and win a free pawn? Is there a better move for black rather than d5? Why did Heath want to go knight g5? Is he threatening something?
Taking on f7.
Yeah. So how would black defend that?
Castle.
Just castle. So is that going to be good for white or good for black, do you think?
Good for black.
Why?
Because he's got his king safe.
Yeah, and he's defended the threat. So back to you, Heath.
Okay.
Knight G5. Tell me about why you did that.
Well, I used to always like to play the fried liver, and I kind of like the knight G5 to attack F7 move.
Yeah.
And also, once I castle, I sometimes like to get rid of the rook.
Okay. Did you ask yourself what's he going to reply? Like you were maybe expecting D5 and you didn't see he could castle, or you wanted to play knight takes F7 and give up knight and bishop for rook and pawn, or what?
Well, yeah, I knew he was going to castle. I wanted to do the knight takes F7 and all that to win the rook.
All right. So, so in this position, would it be better for you to castle or play knight takes F7 and do the swap?
Castle.
Castle. Okay. That's what you actually played, I think. Castles, yep. So then he went D6, you went D3. So knight G5, I'm saying that's a bad move and Iran didn't like it too much. So what is that, disobeying one of our rules or our sayings, or what can we do to make sure we don't do that?
Don't move piece twice in the opening.
Yeah, so we have a saying, move each piece only once and put it on the best square in the opening. So you've moved it twice, so that's disobeying our rules. So your brain should have gone, ka-chunk, that's a bit naughty, I shouldn't be doing that. And in fact, what black could do, if he was clever here, he'd just play H6, you'd go back, and now it's black's turn to move, and he's already got an extra move in H6 in, so it's like you've given him 2 free moves. You started off a move ahead, but now you're 2 moves behind. See, so that's why that would be bad. But that's not what happened. In fact, he went bishop G4, and you went and hid. Then he attacked your knight. You did a counter-attack. He took, you took. Then he played knight takes G4, so he's won one of your pawns. All right. Now, I'd like people to think what move they might play for white here and type that in on the questions. What would be a good move? And you have a think too, Heath, about, I don't know whether you remember what you played, but have a think about what would be a good move for white here. Jason and Oliver are saying Queen E2 looks all right. Nick likes Queen E2. Everyone's putting Queen E2. Sam wants Knight D5. Thomas wants Knight D5. Iran, Queen E2. Looks like a lot of votes for Queen E2. What move do you, Knight A4 from Ryan, what move do you like then, Heath? What do you think?
Queen E2.
And why do you like Queen E2?
Because it attacks the knight, and he has to go to H6 on the side where he doesn't do much, because if he goes back to F6, we just take the pawn.
Okay. Queen E2, he might be able to play Queen D7 and just defend it. The best move is probably Knight D5, so all of those of you who put Knight D5, well done. That stops black putting his queen out to F6 and then over to H6 and mating us on H2, which would be painful. But do you remember what you played in this position, Heath? You played a really weird move. All right, I don't believe it, but D4. I can't understand why on earth you'd want to play D4. Does that bring back any memories?
Horrible ones.
It's a horrible move, isn't it? You're just losing a pawn for nothing. He's recapturing with a good move and you've blown a pawn. Yeah, so that was really weird. So you made a couple of weird moves, but you're probably a lot younger at the time, so hopefully you've moved on from there. So let's have a look at our main game we want to look at today, which is the Brodie-Tanner game. Okay. Now, was this an Australian junior game? Where was this? Oh no, Sunraysia coaching class.
Yeah.
Term 1. Okay, so Brody Tanner, is he a good player?
Yes.
So similar to you, or a little bit higher rated or something like that?
Oh yeah, he's 1,000. He's just reached 1,100.
Oh, okay, all right. So he's a little bit better than you. So you're white, he's black, so it should be a good game. So we start off, okay, Sicilian. Do you often play against a Sicilian?
Lately, yes.
Okay, and he's going for a dragon with d6. Now, do you remember what move you played here?
I don't know what move I played, but I know that I shouldn't play d4.
Yeah, you played bishop c4 instead of d4. So you're now telling us that that's not the best and d4 is better? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So why would that be? Why would d4 be better than bishop c4? Isn't that a lovely spot for the bishop attacking the f7 pawn?
Well, it is, but you can, the pawn on c5, if you kind of get rid of it, the king's kind of opened a little bit, and you can get your knight into the center of the board if he takes.
Right. Okay. Let's see if we can get someone to ask. Let's see if Lachlan's around. You there, Lachlan?
Yep.
Bishop c4. What do you think of bishop c4 instead of the normal d4?
Not that good.
Why not?
Because it's going out the wrong way, I reckon. Like, it's not a very good diagonal.
Isn't that a good square for the bishop?
Yeah, it is, but it's not really, I don't know.
Okay. All right, I'll tell you what the problem is. All right, thanks, Lachlan. All right, so remember the saying we say move each piece only once and put it on the best square. So do we know that c4 is the best square for the bishop? Or maybe it should be b5 or d3 or whatever. So it's not really clear. But the worst thing about putting the bishop on c4 is what would black, or what could black do in reply, do you think, Heath, to counteract your bishop being there? So your bishop's got a good attack going on f7, so how could he stop that?
e6?
Yeah, if it was me, I'd put my pawn on e6, so your bishop's bouncing into those rock of pawns. Then I'd put a pawn on a6, threatening to chase that bishop right away, and the bishop's sort of going to be in the road. I'm going to gain all lots of tempi by attacking it with pawns. So it's not really a good spot. So that was a little bit of a boo-boo. So I'm glad we understand that now. He went knight c6. Then you hit him with c3, so you're going to try and get the two pawns side by side. That's good. He went knight f6. Is he threatening anything?
He's threatening the pawn on e4.
Yep. So what should we do about that?
We should defend it.
Probably defend it. This is the next few moves are a bit of a mystery to me because the score sheet says d4. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, hang on, can he take that pawn or not or whatever? But strangely, he doesn't take it. He just continues with g6. And then you continued up pawn to d5, hitting his knight. So his knight bounced, well, where do you reckon he should put the knight? Should he go to e5, a5 or back to b8?
E5.
You like e5? Why do you like e5?
Well, it's in the center and it's pretty much attacking a lot. It's attacking the bishop that's undefended.
Yep.
It's, yeah.
Okay, all right, well that's what he did. All right, so he's played knight e5, so he's attacking your bishop and your e-pawns, possibly still en prise. You might want to take that one day. So I'll give people a choice. Let's make a decision here. We could either swap off the knights or we could move our b knight to d2 to defend the bishop, and if he takes us we can recapture with developing moves. So type in on the question which you prefer. Would you rather play knight takes knight or knight b to d2? Ryan's gone knight takes knight. Rebecca's gone knight takes knight. Bobby's gone knight. Oh, Nick, everyone's gone knight takes knight. Lachlan, Nick. Callum's gone berserk. Not got Cade versus K. Looks like everyone's playing knight takes knight. All right. What do you prefer, Heath? Knight takes or knight to d2?
Knight takes.
But in the game, you played knight d2. Yeah, I agree. Why would knight takes be better?
Because it gets rid of a really good positioned bishop, and yeah, you can kind of weaken down his pawn structure, get him doubled.
Yeah, you've mucked up his pawns. So he's got double pawns, and you've got rid of that knight in the centre. So if he wants to like attack your centre maybe with e6 or something, you can just chop it and he'll end up with double pawns on e6 and e5. So playing knight takes knight would be a simple way to get a little advantage with the pawn structure. You went for knight bd2. He chopped the bishop, you chop back. I reckon he can still take that pawn, so I don't know what's going on here, but he went b5. Where should you put that knight?
Possibly back to d2.
Yep, I reckon possibly back to d2 to save that pawn would probably be best. You went to e3. Now he can take that pawn, but then you've now got queen d3 attacking the b5 pawn and the e4 knight, so you get the pawn back, but he gets the valuable centre pawn. But he still doesn't take it. Okay, plays bishop g7. What do you think white should play now?
Let me see. Probably castles.
Castles? Is that the only move you'd look at, or the other moves you'd look at?
Mm.
You don't want to save that poor pawn?
e5.
e5? What's
Yeah.
good about e5?
Well, the pawn's probably going to die anyway soon, so just swap it off for a pawn that's defending, that's kind of helping with the pawn structure, and then you can get rid of the c5 pawn.
Right. What about your d pawn? Because he's got that attack by a knight, and it'll be the attack by a queen.
Well, how about knight g5?
Knight g5 to protect your e pawn.
Yeah.
So what would he reply if you played knight g5?
h6.
And then you've got to go back again. Does that remind you of a position we had a minute ago?
Yep.
Where someone moved a piece twice in the opening, was very naughty and could have gone just back and wasted time?
Well, how about queen d3?
Queen d3 might be okay, or queen c2 might be okay. Castles is probably not totally bad, but you played a really strange move here, which I don't understand. You remember?
No, and I don't want
No?
to know.
Hopefully you've erased it from your memory bank. You played b4. Now I don't understand that at all. Can you remember why you might have wanted to play b4?
Absolutely no idea.
Okay. Now, so why is it a naughty move? What's wrong with it?
Well, it's weakening the queen side.
It's gaining space on the queen side.
Yes. We're just gonna have a swap off.
What do you think Black would reply?
Knight takes e4.
Knight takes e4 looks pretty good. He's grabbing a pawn and he's threatening bishop takes c3 check. And he's sort of dropping a pawn or two. So, A, it's tactically horrible. So before you make a move, you should say, what's the opponent going to reply? All right, what else is horrible about it? On general, why wouldn't we play b4 in this position?
Because we haven't castled.
Yeah, because we're trying to castle, we're trying to develop our pieces and stuff. So we haven't castled, we haven't developed our bishop or our queen, so why on earth would we be attacking with b4? So it's just a terrible move. But he ignores you and plays pawn to c4. So lucky break. You castled. Now I'm still not sure what's happening to that e-pawn, but he ignores it. Now you counter-attack his b-pawn. For some reason he didn't either defend it or take your pawn. And finally, after being on pre for about a year, you defended the e-pawn. So that was cool. And then he noticed the b-pawn's attack and he defended it. All right. So how are we going here? What do you reckon?
I would say positionally and developmentally, he's probably better.
Why do you reckon he's better?
Well, he's got all his pieces developed, most of them.
Well, he hasn't developed his queen.
Yeah, he's
one move ahead of you. He's a bishop move ahead because you haven't developed your bishop or your queen.
Yeah.
So he's like a little bit ahead in development. Anything else?
My bishop's basically stuck.
Yeah, your bishop's struggling a bit.
He's got this wonderful pawn chain down to c4.
Yeah, but you've got a lovely one from from g2 to d5, which is in the centre. So you've got a bit more of the centre, haven't you?
Yes.
And you've got that lovely knight on d4.
Maybe I'm not so bad.
Yeah, it's sort of not too bad. Maybe a smidgen better for black, I would say. So it's fairly even, we'll say. Okay, he's just played a6. Now, you played a4. What do you think of that? Is that a good move?
Well,
It's not a developing move. You could have developed your bishop.
could have developed my bishop, but
Is it a good move? What do you think?
no, I don't think it's a good move, but
It's an okay move.
I guess it's just in that column.
I think it's not bad. You've got the two pawns side by side. Remember, in all my talks I've been saying get the two pawns abreast to give you something to do.
Yep.
So it's expanded your rook, so your rook's now in the game, and you're threatening his b pawn, and like he can't really take you because his pawns would be stuffed and his c pawn would be undefended and things like that. So it puts him under a bit of pressure. So I reckon that's quite a good move. So well done. He defended with queen d7. Okay. All right, people. We still haven't completed our development. So type in what you think would be a reasonable developing move for white here in the questions. White to play and develop something. We could develop our bishop somewhere. We could develop our queen somewhere. So Roy and Jason are going bishop d2. Someone's written bishop c2, which is illegal. Nick wants to go bishop a3. Harry's going knight f5. My God. That Harry, he's an attacking player. He's going to lose a knight, but he's an attacking player. Sean wants knight g4. Rebecca and Callum want bishop d2. Okay, there's quite a range of ideas. Oliver's queen e2. What do you like now, Heath? What would be good?
I don't actually know.
Do you know where to put that bishop?
Yeah, I think bishop d2, like get the knight out of the way.
Okay. Now where do you want to put your queen?
Oh, okay. Well, I want to put my queen on. Possibly e1 to get it out that side.
e1. Why does your queen want to go to the king's side?
Because then he can start an attack on the king's side. Just start.
You can or he can. Are you
can.
trying to attack him, or are you worried about him attacking you?
I'm trying to attack.
You're trying to attack him.
Yeah.
Okay. What makes you think you should attack him?
Well.
Have you completed your development? Have you got more attackers than he's got defenders? Has he got some big weakness you can attack?
Okay.
It's not really an attacking position, is it?
No, not at all.
No, all right. But there is the question of where you should play, not necessarily attack, but play. So where is your pawn chain pointing? Where have you got more space?
To the queen side.
Queen side. That pawn, see, from G2 right up to D5, that's all pointing towards the queen side. And you've got that lovely knight, and you've got his B pawn under a bit of pressure. So were it me, I'd probably play queen C2, because I've lost my white squared bishop. I want to put my queen on a white square, and I want to keep protecting that A pawn. Then I might put my bishop on D2, and ideally I'd try and double the rooks on the A file and threaten with taking that B pawn and maybe infiltrating down the A file would be my thought. Anyway, the move you came up with, you played queen D2, which I think is a bit funny because you may want to put your bishop there, and I think you want your queen on a white square. So those of you like Max eventually came up with queen C2, not too bad, and Yevgeny queen C2 as well. All right, what did he do? Oh, he's counter-attacking you in the centre. Okay. Are we going to take that, or are we going to move backwards? That's a bit of a tough decision. I think we need some help here, folks. So type in whether you want to take or whether you want to retreat your knight. So Sean's retreating. Oliver's jumping into knight C6 and dropping a pawn. Sam's retreating. Callum and Roy are retreating. Mitch is taking. Max is retreating. Must be bad if Max is retreating. Gabby is taking. Okay, what do you reckon, Heath? What should you do?
I reckon en passant.
En passant. Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one. En passant gives him a bit more play, but it sort of gives him an extra 3 pawn islands, and maybe you can attack the D6 pawn, stuff like that. If he did retreat, say you put your knight back to E2, what plan would you have then that you didn't have before? Think about your pawns, your white pawns. Any ideas?
Not really.
All right, well, if it were me, if I'm going to retreat, I'd play knight E2, and then I'd try and play G5, not so much to attack him, but then I'm going to put my other knight on G3. So I've got all those pieces controlling F5. So he's never going to be able to push that pawn to F5. So I've like killed his play on the king side. Then I can do my double rooks on the A file and do my stuff over there, given that I've stymied him. So knight E2 is possible, but in the game we did the swap. He took. Now, there's lots of moves possible here. We could do takes on B5. We could do G4 like I was just talking about. We could do Queen C2. We could do Bishop B2. Let's have a little poll, see what people think. So we could go pawn takes pawn to put some pressure on that B5. We could go Bishop B2. We could go Queen C2, or we could go G4. So people start voting. Pawn takes pawn on B5, Bishop B2, Queen C2, or G4. At the moment, gee, it's all spread across the board. Pawn takes pawn's a little bit ahead. Bishop B2 is coming second. Queen C2, G4 bringing up the rear. Pawn takes pawn. Looks like I'll close the poll now. Let's have a look at the results. Looks like pawn takes pawn's the winner. Bishop B2 second, and the others further back. All right, it's a bit of a tough decision. G4 might have been good a minute ago when it was closed, but now that that F file's open, I don't think I'd want to play G4. Queen C2's probably reasonable if I want to put a rook on the D file. Bishop B2's okay. Pawn takes pawn. Not sure about Bishop B2. I think I'd probably play. Do you remember what you played in the game?
I think I played Queen C2.
Oh, I think you took it. Let me just explain about taking. It's interesting. So where you have the 2 pawns side by side, and he's got that pawn chain that you're attacking, so you can do 3 things. You can either push the pawn past to block it all off, you can swap off, or you can leave it there. Now, I think the best is, depending on the situation obviously, but if you leave it there, then if he's ever going to take you, that stuffs up his board structures, that's going to be bad for him. So if you leave it there, he's under pressure because he's constantly got to think, is my opponent going to swap? Is he going to push past? You know, what's he going to do? Whereas if you take, he takes back and it's resolved. You've just swapped. End of argument, and he now knows what's happening. So it just puts him under that little bit more pressure if you leave it there for a little bit. So like you could have played Queen C2, move your bishop, doubles your rook, then take it. Something like that. I mean, pawn takes pawn is sort of okay. Takes back. All right. Do you remember what you played here?
I have no idea, but I hope it wasn't Rook takes A8.
It wasn't Rook takes A8. It was something even more extraordinary than Rook takes A8. Okay. So when we're choosing our moves, we're not only analysing sort of variations at the moment, but we should also have the big picture in mind. What's our plan? Where should we be playing? That sort of thing. And what are we trying to do? So what are you trying to do in this position?
Trying to...
You've got your king safe. You've got a bit of the centre. You've got 2 nice big squares. What are you trying to do?
Develop my bishop.
Yeah, you need to develop that bishop. It's sitting there doing nothing. So how do we know where to put the bishop?
The best square.
The best square. All right. Guess where you put it?
The worst square.
The worst square, A3. What is that bishop doing on A3? I've got no idea. Let's get in the way. So you've had a bit of a brain failure there. And he moved his bishop to defend that pawn. Then you moved your queen to the side, which is probably okay. And he thought, aha, I'm going to double up on that bishop. So you went, oh my God, he's doubling up on me, and you went back. So that's just like the game where you played knight G5 and gave him 2 free moves. You've given him another 2 free moves with that wasted bishop A3. All right, so you've got to be careful when you put your pieces on good squares. So he's doubled. So we could swap or run away. You chose to run away, which I'm quite in favour of. He's got that backward D pawn on the half-open file, so you can put a bit of pressure on that. He then came up with D5. Okay. Now, there's lots of things we could do here. We could take it with the pawn. We could push past. We could take his bishop. Now, I wonder what's the best. How about everyone has a think and does a question for me. What do you want to play here? Like you could play pawn takes D5, you could play pawn up to E5, you could play knight takes C6, or maybe there's some other good move you want to play. So Max is playing knight takes C6. Ryan likes E5. Roy wants to take on D5. Rebecca likes E5. Gabby wants to take on C6. Bobby likes E5. Sean's writing F5, which is illegal. Thomas wants to play knight takes D6, which is illegal. Haran, Nick want E5. Gee, we're all over the shop. Lachlan hasn't voted because he's probably asleep. All right, Heath, what do you want to do? What do you think would be good? Oh no, Lachlan's not asleep. He said hi. He's woken up. What do you reckon, Heath? You've got some possibilities there.
I like the push on E5.
You like the push on E5. Why do you like that one?
Because he will have to move his knight, then the bishop has absolutely no control because it's being blocked by a pawn.
Okay. Let's see if we can talk to Max. Max, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You went pawn takes d5, is that right?
Yeah.
Yep, all right, but Heath's saying pawn to e5 is better. So you tell Heath what you like about pawn takes d5.
Well, it opens up, if the queen or bishop take, it's opening up the d file for maybe a discovered attack. And if the pawn takes, the bishop's wanted, and you just get that open e file.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that, Max. So, Heath, has he convinced you, or you still like e5?
He's kind of got me in the middle.
Don't be taken in. Don't be taken in. e5. What a good move. Okay, e5 is a bit better because Max was saying pawn takes pawn, and you get the e file, but black could just as easily get the e file. e5, you've still locked his bishop in, but you've gained all that knight's juicy space because you've now got a pawn on the 5th. And you're hitting his knight to push his knight off to a worse square. So he plays knight h5. All right, so we're now sort of getting in the middle game. You've got all your pieces developed. He's just made a move. So what do we say?
What is he threatening?
So what is he threatening? Is he threatening anything? He's just moving his knight out of the way.
He's attacking the pawn on e5 by the bishop.
Oh, okay. Our pawn's attacked. All right, so we've got to do something about that, unless we've got a brilliant counter-attack, which we don't seem to have. All right. So the specifics of the situation, we've got to respond to that. In general, what's your plan now? So we're in the early middle game. We need some sort of a plan. What do you reckon you're going to be doing?
Trying to get an attack on the king's side, and
why do you want to attack on the king's side?
Because that's where the king is.
Right. What if he's got 47 million defenders and you're attacking him with a pawn? Should you still attack on the king's side?
No.
No. Okay. So why? Well, your king's on the king's side. His king's on the king's side. Why do you want to attack on the king's side?
Good question.
Okay. Do you know the general rules where you work out where you're attacking? That I've talked about before. What about space? Where have you got the more space?
Queen side.
Queen side. He's got a pawn on the 5th. You've only got a pawn on the 4th. How have you got more space on the queen side? He's got all that A file. Your pawn, look at your pawn on E5. That gives you 5 ranks of space on the king side. And that cuts all his queen side pieces out of defending his king. So you have more space on the king side. And maybe you can bring more pieces across there quickly because you've got more space. So now you should be looking, how can I attack him on the king side without dropping that pawn? So that's what we're looking at. Okay, I'll give you a little poll. So we've got 3 choices here. We could play knight to g4 to defend that pawn. We could play f4 to defend the pawn. Or we could play g4 to counterattack that silly knight on h5. So I'll have a little poll. So we're looking at g4, f4, or knight g4. So see what you think. Everyone start voting. So knight g4's hit the lead, f4's coming close second, g4's all catching up. Knight g4's still in the lead. We'll close the poll, have a sticky beak. So what's happened? Knight g4 is the winner, but there's a bit of support for g4 and f4. All right. What did you vote for, Heath?
I voted for knight g4.
All right. What's wrong with pawn to g4? Why didn't you like that one? That's attacking the knight, isn't it?
I get S. Yes.
So g4, would that be good for you or good for him or what?
He can kind of jump into f4 and...
Yeah, his knight would jump into f4, and then where's it going to jump after that?
To d3.
3. And what about your poor old e-pawn in the meantime? That's a bit of a worry.
He's just
So
going to
that's
get...
no good. Yeah, so g4 was a bad one. Why not f4? Why do you want to protect that pawn with the knight?
Well, I was thinking about f4, but he could do something.
What could he do?
He could play bishop h6.
Yeah, with a double attack. All right, you went for knight g4, like so. That's sort of annoying him a little bit. Were it me, I think I would choose f4. Because remember the 2 pawns side by side that we're trying to get in when we're doing our plans? So if I can get a pawn on f5, I reckon I'll be cooking with gas. So in a perfect world, I'd want to play g4, f5, and then I'm rolling on the king side. Whereas my knight g4, it's sort of getting in the way a little bit. Anyway, he went bishop f8. Probably not the best move. He could have jumped in knight f4 again. Then you went f4, so that's good stuff. He went bishop e7. Now you play rook d to e1, sort of bringing the rook in. I think I prefer knight e3. Why would I prefer knight e3? What's knight e3 got going for it that rook e1 hasn't got going for it? What's our next move going to be for white?
Probably
g4. So say like he moves his rook up, we could hit him with g4. Let's have a look. So he goes back. Now, here we go. We're rocking and rolling. f5. He could counter-attack our knight. He could defend it. Chops, 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 chops. Now, tricky question for people. What do we take that with? Do we take that knight on f5 with the knight or the rook? Type in knight or rook on the questions. We're trying to attack. So we rather have our knight in the attack or rather have our rook in the attack? So Callum's gone knight, Yevgeny's gone knight, Gabby, everyone's going knight. What would you go, Heath?
knight.
Well, you're all wrong. Okay, what we do is we say, which is the better piece? Now, rooks are stronger than knights in general, but our knight, that's a fantastic knight there. That's attacking his bishop, threatening e6. Our rook's okay, but look, if we take that knight, then we could go steamrolling with the pawn. Queen's got to keep protecting the bishop. Maybe we go rook g3 check or something. He hides in the corner. Queen f5 check. He's got to go there to stop queen f6 check. We could threaten mate on g7. So he's got to retreat. We drop our bishop back. And basically we're all over him because his bishop's out of it. We're going to maybe play knight takes bishop, bishop f4, bishop e5 check. And we've got a really strong attack going. So it's against your instinct, but often you get a situation like that where you say, which is the better piece for attacking? And that knight on d4 is a good one. So that would have been a good attack if we had played knight e3. But the move you played was rook d to e1. He went up to the 7th. You gave him a check. He went up. Why did you give him a check? Is that good for you?
No, it's good for him.
Why is it good for him?
Because I gave him a free move.
Because if you go back knight g4, it's just like the other examples, you've given him free move. He's chased you back and he's got his king in a better spot, but you could have had a go again f5. So because we've got attackers, see, like we've got 2 knights, 2 rooks, a queen attacking, and he's got like knight, bishop, and a little bit of a queen defending, so we've got more attackers. So it could go swaps, 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 takes with the rook, but now we're hitting his knight, so he might drop back to defend it. We could double, maybe threatening rook f7 check perhaps. He hasn't got much to do. He could drop the bishop back. We hit him up here. And white's going to romp it in the next minute with all those attackers ganging up on that poor old king. So that would have been good. So Matt, so if your idea of check was to follow up with F5, that's cool. But if your idea was to run back and hide, that's probably not so cool. He played rook F8. And what happened here?
What happened here?
Remember? It might be wrong, but the score sheet says white lost on time. Could that be true? Or you just missed out all the extra moves in the big time scramble?
Oh yeah, I lost on time, yeah.
So we're up to like move 27. What's happened to all your time?
I spent all the time thinking.
Okay. All right. Well, at some stage I'll have to give a talk on sort of efficient thinking and efficient use of time, because that's a very important strategy. Because you've still got an okay position here. It's probably sort of fairly even, but you had good chances a few moves ago for a really nice attack, as we saw. Okay, so what can we learn from the positions in that game that we've looked at today?
Don't make useless moves.
Yeah, don't move pieces twice. Don't make useless attacking moves. Anything else?
Don't move pieces twice in the opening.
Well, really, we have all those sayings, like don't move pieces twice, try and castle, things like that. Put your pieces on good squares. So if you're aware of those sayings, then you can make certain your moves fit in and you're not sort of breaking the rules. Or if you are breaking the rules, you've got a really, really good reason to do it. So I think whilst there are a lot of blunders in the games we looked at, you've obviously got the hang of it now and you realise how to avoid most of those blunders. So hopefully you'll be well on the way to becoming a much stronger player. All right, that's the end of the lesson for tonight, everyone. I'm not sure I've got next week, but I'm sure David will find me someone. It could even be that I think he's got people booked in